Well, here we are at episode 2 of our 6-part series on self-care consistency. And there's really, why you have 6 parts, because it is about consistency. And the more we think about it, the more chances are we will start to make a real habit of it. So, of course, we have the wonderful Cara Michele, who's a licensed acupuncturist, a functional nutrition counselor, a certified personal trainer. She's an author, Fuel Your Engines. I like that one. And so 6 empowering topics with valuable content and useful tips you can implement immediately to truly make this year a fabulous one. We're talking about taking responsibility. We're talking about taking action. And our topic today is unpacking the 7 foundations of health, a roadmap for consistency. But before we dive in there, and of course, you know me, Cara Michele and I have already dived in it off recording in all sorts of aspects. But first, Cara Michele, for those who might not have heard the previous episode, do you want to share a little bit about how you came to be doing what you do?
Thanks so much, Julie. I'm so excited about this series. So happy to be here, and hopefully going to be able to give a couple of tips that folks can implement right away. That's the goal of
Yeah.
the series here. So hello everyone. My name is Cara Michele Nether. I'm the founder of Strength and Vitality Wellness Center, and it's located outside of Baltimore in the United States. Look, I got started in health and wellness, women's specific health and wellness 19 years ago. And what promoted that journey for me is that I just kept seeing women trying to figure out how to take care of themselves while they're taking care of their families. And it's always, I think in women's mindset, it's always an either or. I can either take care of them or I can take care of myself. And so it is my mission these days to try to help women figure out a good framework so that they can do both. And why that's important is that it's really difficult, Julie, to give from an empty cup.
Yeah.
We end up running ourselves down. And in doing so, we set ourselves up for major health concerns and disease
Yeah.
states as we age, as we get older. And it's just not necessary. We don't need to struggle. We don't need to feel worn out, whipped, fatigued, frustrated, resentful even while
Yeah.
we're taking care of our families. And we don't need to have diabetes, heart disease, cancer, those types of things as we get older. When we get older, we want to be able to enjoy and go and do without concern. But
Right.
that only happens if we're willing to put in a small amount of time consistently where we're focusing on our own care consistently.
I love this because you're so right. I was thinking as you were talking, okay, there's all these different ages. When we're very young, we think, well, who cares about self-care? I live forever, that sort of thing. Or we are very focused on ourselves. And then we have often a period of life when we're, well, for most of us, let's say, having children. And there we just drop absolutely everything and we're like slaves to the system. We run ourselves to the ground, which doesn't make much sense either, because, once we collapse, then who's going to look after the rest? And then we get to these fabulous 50s where we often do still have, maybe not in the same way, obviously, children around, but they're still needing us in certain ways. Plus, we often have then aging parents who need us, and it's sort of wired into our system, the others first, right? That's what we're here for, to nurture, to look after. But we can't even do that if we're not feeling good. And we actually started this conversation offline, Cara Michele and I, when I was sort of making some comments about the politics in the world nowadays and about, how Europe is finding all the developments with Trump rather scary. And Cara Michele has a wife. So I was also wondering, is this impacting as well you? And she said something very wise. And she was saying, you know what, Julie, I'm focusing on my family, on myself, my friends, my neighbors, my community. The only thing I can do is make sure that I am in the best state possible in order to be there for everyone else. And that does have to start with me. And I think that somehow sums up all of this wisdom of yours.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the bottom line. Look, things are going to go on in the world. Things are going to go on in our neighborhoods. Things are going to go on in our townships and our countries that we agree with or we don't agree with. Even if we agree, change can be really tricky and hard, even if
Yeah.
we agree with the change, right? And
Yeah.
so if there, as far as I understand, the politics of my country are out of my hands right now, right?
Yeah.
I've done my part. I voted.
Yes.
I learned. And I made a good, what I thought was a good decision, and I voted, right? And so, whatever happens between now and the next 4 years, that is really out of my hands. And I was talking to a client about this recently who is a person who champions rights and pushes agenda, political agenda. She is an activist type person.
Right.
We were talking about what is hers to do and what is mine to do. I've never
Right.
been an activist type person, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, my job is to be the best version of myself. When clients come to talk to me, I want to be open and clear-minded and be able to really listen, engage what it is they need, and be able to offer that in the best way possible. When my
Right.
wife needs something, I want to be able to be a great listener and be able to be grounded and listen and offer her what I think is really going to help her move her goals forward, right?
Right.
And that's what we all want to do. We all
Right.
want to be able to be the best version of ourselves for the people that we love. And whether it's a political situation, whether it's difficulties with schools, work, relationships, whatever it is, the number one thing we can do is to take care of ourselves, to show up, being able to demonstrate the values that we hold so dear. If someone
Right.
were to ask us, we would say we value listening, we value partnership, we value love, we value, community, right? Well, how do they show up when you speak? When you
Right.
show up
Right.
during the day,
Right.
right?
Very powerful. I thought that was such a powerful message. So sorry, I was taking you slightly off track, but I thought
Okay,
this is what it's all about, right?
that's right.
Right. Okay. So we were talking about the seven foundations of health. So we talk about consistency and the seven foundations of health. So maybe we start with what do you consider the seven foundations?
Yeah, so that's a great place to start. So I've been in practice for 19 years, I've seen hundreds, thousands of women. And what I've learned over the years as a functional nutrition counselor, personal trainer, and acupuncturist is that there are seven foundations, seven practices, seven activities that we need to have in our life regularly for us to have the highest level of mental and physical energy possible for ourselves, right? And
Okay.
all that we were talking about earlier with showing up as our best and these foundations, they are nothing but an ability to fuel that mental and physical energy so that we can then
Yeah.
show up the way we want to in our communities.
And that there are certain things which are common to all of us, right?
They
So
are.
these are the seven. So what do we have?
Yeah. So, first of all, we have sleep. If we were to ask women, get out our clipboards and ask women, what are the things that we need to do to take care of ourselves? Everyone would say the same thing. So, these are
Yeah.
not brand new things. It's nothing exotic. These are the exact things that we already know. If I asked our listeners, they would all say they should probably get a little better sleep, more
Right.
sleep, and higher quality sleep, right?
Right.
They would
So that's
also,
something you guide your clients to as well. You know, what are the things we can do in order to help our sleep? How much sleep is necessary? And same thing, yeah, we tend to put ourselves last, right? We're
yeah,
still running the washing machines, or God knows what we're doing at time of night when we should be just relaxing in bed. Okay,
that's
that's a
right.
very good
Yeah,
one.
these are going to be foundational, basic things that we already know. So we said sleep. We definitely need to have exercise and stretching
Right.
regular in our lives, right? We
So
definitely need,
exercise, that can also be like going for a walk, as in it doesn't have to be
yes,
sweating it out in the gym or, horse
yeah.
jumping or whatever. Yeah.
Look, I think that we definitely want to make sure with exercise and stretching, the goal here is to make sure that we have the highest level of functionality and mobility and strength in order to be able to do the things that
Yeah.
we want to do in our lives. So maybe
Right.
that's actually a preface for all of this. The only reason that we would engage in these things is because we have a certain vision
Yeah.
for our lives, right? This
Right.
is what I want my life to feel like now, and this is what I want it to look like and feel like 15, 20 years from now, right? So
Right. And
we
it
have a
does
goal
affect
there.
everything, right? We were talking about muscle building, so we don't get sore backs, so we can even carry our groceries. We're not talking about, huge things, but it's just basically keeping that body fit, right?
Yeah, it all depends on what it is you want to do. Most of my
Right.
clients aren't interested in being able to lift their body weight overhead and jump up on a two foot
Yeah.
box, right?
Yeah.
Most of my clients aren't interested in climbing big mountains. But if you are,
Yeah.
right, that you might need something different, right?
Yeah.
If those are your goals. But if you're trying to pick up the grandchildren, if you're
Yeah.
trying to climb the stairs when you travel to a
Yeah.
different country, you want to be able to put your suitcase
That's
overhead
right. To not
bin.
be dependent, right? It's about
You
not
want to
being
be
dependent.
independent, live your
Yeah.
life, get stuff from underneath the bed, get up
Yeah.
on the top shelves in the closet.
Yeah.
Then you
And less
certainly,
pain as well, because then when the day you do have to do that, if you haven't done anything to stretch your body, the
that's right.
chances are that you develop a
Yeah,
lumbago and that ruins
yeah.
your entire holiday.
I can't tell you how many clients I have who can't reach their arm straight overhead because this is not a motion that we do regularly.
Right.
But
Right.
at some point, you're going to want to grab
Yeah.
the thing,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
if you do that and you haven't been stretching, then that's where you set yourself up
And there
for
is so
injury.
much. I mean, yoga, Pilates, there's so many things that we
Yeah,
can do. I couldn't possibly start the day without Pilates.
yeah,
I
yeah.
need to crack and twiggle and pull it all out in the morning to feel good.
Can I add one more thing to
Yeah.
this exercise and stretching? I think it's really useful, and maybe we'll do a podcast just on this. I think it's useful to identify your forever moves. Your
Aha.
forever moves. Now, these are things that could look super benign, not even worth jotting down, like being able to climb the stairs without holding onto the rail,
Right. Right.
right? Coming and going, right? Or being able to pick up your 20-pound grandchild and hold her up overhead, right?
Right.
The point here is that if we identify the things that we want to be able to do, one of the things on my list is to be able to walk 10 miles in a day,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Hike or walk two
Yeah.
miles in a day. If you have that list, then you can constantly go back and check yourself every
Right.
6 months or so
Right.
and see, can I do the things? And if
Right.
not, we know that we need to now implement the types of exercise and stretching that makes that possible again. That way we
Right.
don't wait until we're 75 or 80 and realize I can't get on the floor anymore.
Exactly. And so you don't wait until it's gone, right? You have to, what's it? Keep it or lose it? No, it's something which sounds a lot better than that. But anyway, it's supposed to rhyme. But it's basically that idea, right? And
That's
and
right.
I think it's very wise what you say as well, because sometimes we need to there again we need to use sort of self-love. I used to be a really very fanatic sports person, right? So we talk about kickboxing and dancing 4 or 5 hours a week, etc. Now I'm well aware. Well, no, that's not true. I can't say that I can't do it. I've decided that isn't what I need to be able to be doing. I do need to be able to dance. I don't need to be able to dance 5 hours, in a row. So it's also deciding, as you say, you can also change the goalpost. That doesn't mean chickening out, but that means thinking, what works for my energy level right now, what works for the muscles that I do want to keep supple. So that's also self-love, right? It's not just jamming on with the same thing, like I'm not going to age, I'm going to be as fit as I was at 20, because that doesn't make sense.
Absolutely. I, like yourself, I was a big athlete all my life, played sports in high school, college. I've been a martial artist for 20 years. But, as I age, I realize that there are things that I used to be able to do that really aren't going to help me
Right,
as
right,
I age. But there are other things that I didn't do, like stretching more. I didn't do
right.
that so much when
So
I
it's
was
being
younger.
loving and open and curious and really asking ourselves, what does my body need right now in order to be in its best shape? Like you said, it's all about being at our best. And what
Yeah.
that means at 20 might not mean the same thing at 58.
Absolutely. It just
Yes,
isn't.
yes,
Our desires for our lives change over time. And
yes.
so we just have to be willing to take time and maybe even pencil to paper what's important to me right now,
Yeah.
what I want my next 10 or 20 years to look like. And for me, being able to be the kind of martial artist that I was in the past, this isn't super important for me now.
No, and there we are, done it. It was enjoyable, but there's a time for everything, right?
There's a
Okay, I'm
time
going to
for
stop
everything. That's right.
interrupting you, otherwise we're never going to get to the end of what I'm
I
saying.
know, I
So,
know. Okay.
okay.
So the next one, I think we're on number 3,
Yeah,
is nutrition. Nutrition.
right.
Everything that we put in our mouths is actually going to get processed in some way or another. It's going to help our cells, the 30 trillion cells that make up our body. they're going to make them stronger or it's going to make them weaker. And
Yeah.
so we just have to be honest about that, right?
Right.
And in saying that, I want to also put right up at the top here the fact that I'm not saying that we can't have fun food. I kind of classify food in fueling. There's foods that are going to fuel my body, and then there's fun food,
With
right?
fun food,
And
yeah.
I'm never saying we can't have both of those, right?
Right. And already I would say to even be aware of what we're putting in our body. I think a lot of us just, I realize I do that too. Suddenly I'm hungry, I've been working, I go to the kitchen and I see something, I just put it in my mouth. And then I come back and I'm a bit like, okay, what was that all about? You know, sometimes I'm not even aware of what I've just put in my mouth. So, I mean, it's also, being conscious, deciding what is it that I want right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we're in such a fast-paced society, we're all used to being on the go and running from one place to the other all the time. We kind of include our meals in that fast
Yeah.
pace. And so, as you were saying, we were just kind of hopping. We might have a little bit of time and we just say, oh, I feel something in my body that, that tells me maybe I should eat something. And we just grab the quickest
Yeah.
thing available, but we're not being conscious of it,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
the truth of the matter is those cells in our body, they need certain nutrition. That's what eating is for,
Right.
right? When you break it down, that we're trying to fuel the cells in our body. And if they don't get what they need, if they're not getting the vitamins and minerals that they need, they're just not going to be able to operate at a high level. And it doesn't matter whether or not we are sleeping good or whether or not we're exercising well. If we're not putting good nutrition in our
Yeah.
bodies, we are
Yeah.
not going to feel well.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And I mean, okay, we don't have time to go into the details now, but that is also something that you do, right? Help people find the
Yep.
right nutrition. Because I think most of us find it's like an ongoing battle to what do I actually need? But okay, we don't
Yeah.
have time to go in that. That could be
Okay.
another one. Okay, so we've got sleep, we've got exercise, we've had nutrition.
That's correct. The next number 4 is hydration.
Aha.
Hydration. Yeah. And I think most people would say that they're probably underhydrated when they stop and think about it. But usually we need to have some kind of parameters around that, right? So a lot of folks will say, I'm drinking, 20 ounces a day, or I'm drinking 30 ounces a day. And that is absolutely a good start. But a good rule of thumb, I'm not saying this is absolute for everyone, but a good rule of thumb is about half your body weight in ounces, or up to about 100 ounces
Okay, I'll
a
need to
day.
convert that into European metric system, but okay, but so half your body weight in ounces. Okay,
Yes.
that's a good
Yeah.
one to look at. And then of course it depends where you live, what temperature it is outside, how much you sport.
That's
But
right.
yeah, I'm a big believer. As you know, I'm in the water ionization business, so I'm a huge believer in the fact that most of us are chronically dehydrated. So yes, hydration.
Absolutely. It's so amazing. A lot of women will come to me and they'll say, I'm not sleeping well at night, or my back is hurting, my knees are hurting. And when they start to increase their water slowly but
Changes
surely,
everything.
then all
Yeah.
of a sudden brain fog starts to clear up, their joints
Yeah.
feel a ton better, they're able to
Incredible, right?
rest better at night. Yeah, for sure. Here's the thing, like if you try to increase any of these 7 foundations, and especially this hydration, if you try to increase them too much too fast,
Yeah.
it's not going to work. You're going to be very
Because
frustrated.
we are talking about consistency. That's what I like here. It's not yet again a fad. Do this, and then you super enthusiastic the first 3 days, and then it's quite hard to do because it is. We're breaking habits, right?
That's right. That's right. That's right. And so, as we're talking about these 7 foundations, we have to remember that we're not looking for the quick fix. We're looking to
No.
change
Yeah.
how we show up in the world. We're trying to change our identity,
Yeah.
how we see and how we understand ourselves. We want to shift from a person who's kind of fits and starts with our self-care, or on the self-care roller coaster, right? To shift over to a person who identifies as someone who consistently takes care
Yeah.
of themselves,
Yeah.
who sets
Yeah.
aside a little bit of time.
It's a philosophy of life, actually, isn't it? It's not a diet. It's a philosophy of life. These are the things we should be doing regularly if we want to live. And you said, 10, 20 years. My grandmother's still alive at 98. That's 41 years more than me. I'm 58. But I mean, that's crazy, right?
Yeah, that's great. That's
So we
amazing.
better,
Yeah.
we better be doing all we can in order to enjoy these years as well,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
be as healthy as we can.
And medical technology is going to make it much easier for us to
Yeah.
live longer, but what's the quality of life that we have?
Exactly.
That's the question.
Exactly. That is the question. Because when I look at my grandmother, I've already said to my children, we're lucky to live in Holland. No way, Jose. That is not what I call quality of life. I want to be there. I want to be able to be enjoying. And if I'm not, then I've had my time, then it's ready to go. So, okay, that's another topic, which we
Yeah.
will not talk about now. Right. What else do we have?
Number five is stress management.
Oh, yes, of course.
Stress is one of the number one killers and promoters of disease states and promoters of unhappiness in general in the
Mm,
women that I work with. So, figuring out what are my top three or four, five stress management techniques, understanding them, having practiced them so that I can actually implement them in the
right.
moment when you need them.
Right, exactly, because those are usually the moments when all the good resolutions and all that go out the window
They
because
go
we're in
out the window.
stress, right? We're not thinking straight. Okay, so these are like tips and tricks of things that you can do, which one suits best, so that when you feel that state of stress, you can regulate, like breathing or,
Yeah, breathing techniques, stepping outside, going
yes,
for a walk. Is there a person that you call? Is there a
yeah,
mantra that you repeat to
right,
yourself? Is there a notebook where you can do a quick journaling? Do you do some
right,
doodling? Whatever it
yeah,
is. See, the thing is that women will say to me all the time, yeah, I know about deep breathing or I know about taking a walk. So I say, well, how often do you actually do it?
yeah,
And there's always a big pause,
yeah.
Julie,
There's always a reason not to.
right?
Right,
Because they haven't practiced it, they haven't worked on it enough so they can actually do it in the moment when you need it.
yeah,
Knowledge is never enough. It's a first step, but
yeah.
it's not going to actually get the results that you want.
It's the
It,
action, right?
it's the action. So in the moment when you're heading down the hallway into a difficult meeting, if it's not a regular thing to kick right into that deep breathing, right?
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you're not able to like pull up your true intention for your life in the moment so that you can stay
right.
focused on what's really happening for you, what's important to you, not just what the other person's going to say, then it's going to make it harder again for you to show up as the person
Yeah.
you want to and manage the difficult situation in a way that's going to be beneficial to
Because
you.
we're not thinking straight, right? We're not in our best state.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. And I mean, the breath is always with us, but we
Yes,
need to know the exercises and that we can do them anywhere, in
that's
the
right.
toilet, in the car, wherever, that puts us back in the best state where we're not reactive, we're not aggressive, we're not terrified, so we can't think.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
So stress
When we
management,
speak about this best state, again, the goal with health and wellness is to actually feel good.
right.
Right? That's what women want. That's what I want. I want to
Yes.
feel my best. I want to feel
Yes.
good in my life. I want to feel like my life is going the way I want it to. I want to feel like I have control over the
Yep.
journey that I'm
Yep.
taking, right? And so the first five that we've talked about, they're all about allowing us to have that level of control.
Right, right, right. And we have that, right? It's a choice. What we put in our mouth, what we drink, what time we go to bed, all of those things are choices.
Yes. The quality of everything we say and do is going to depend on the mental and physical energy that we have in the moment.
Right, right,
Period.
right, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are we now? We've got two
Okay,
more.
we've got the first five, right? And those are the main five, right?
Right.
The second two, one could say that they could automatically show up because we've got those first five in play, but I like to include them in the seven because I think they're important to put a little emphasis on, right? So the next
Okay.
one is to make sure that we have a strong digestive system.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's everything as well, isn't it? It affects everything.
It
I know that
affects
because I don't have a
everything.
good one. It does affect everything.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I can't tell you how many times in my career I've had women come in and tell me that they have bowel movements every week, 5 or 6 days
Wow.
or longer,
Yeah, yeah,
right? And that's something that most people don't want to talk about,
yeah,
but that is our way of eliminating waste,
yeah, yeah.
right? And if you don't, it's kind of like a city. If the
Yeah.
if the refuge workers go on strike, you're okay for a day or two, but things start to pile up and things
Yeah.
start to, and
Yeah.
that
And you feel
influences.
sluggish, you've got headache, stomach ache. I mean,
That's
me, it
right.
really does.
Back
Yeah.
pain,
I mean, our digestion basically runs our system, right?
it
It's
sure
really
does.
our gut,
And
right?
we could be eating really well, but because we're not able to digest that food properly and break it down into its smaller components and get those nutrients out into the bloodstream, we're just kind of wasting that great food because we're not getting the benefits from it because
And
our
why would one
digestive
not do
system.
that? Is it because it's the wrong food, or is it because each person has a different need in what it has depending on their own digestive system?
Yeah, well, I guess I'm talking in general, right? Because
Okay.
we have an upper digestive system and we have a lower digestive system, right?
Okay.
When you put food in your mouth, that's the first part of your digestive system. You start to
Right.
chew it up and break it down. And you have enzymes in your mouth that start to break down some of the carbohydrates and things. But when your food drops into your stomach, it's supposed to be broken down by what's called hydrochloric acid. And if we are low in that acid, we're going to have
Okay.
bloating. We could also
Okay.
have indigestion and
I
acid
think a lot of women with
reflux.
menopause could relate to that.
Lots of women have bloating. So
Gosh,
you
another
see,
topic you've got to go in depth with us.
so we're not able to really break down the food, you see,
Okay.
and then get it out into the small intestine and out into the bloodstream.
Yeah.
So in general, if we're not digesting well, we're just wasting all that great food.
Yeah. And clogging up the system, maybe even,
That's
right?
right. Absolutely.
Okay. And the last one, because I do want to get
Number
into just a few
seven
things.
is
Yeah.
making sure that our blood sugar stays balanced throughout the day.
So that's not suddenly having a sugar snack and, starving yourself the rest of the time. So that we have like these peaks.
Yes, that's right. So a lot of times women will say to me, I'll eat and then I just feel like I want to take a nap. I feel
Yes. Yes.
irritable and
Yes.
tired,
Yeah.
sluggish, headachy, brain
Yeah.
fog,
So
don't
that's
want
the
to be
idea that
bothered.
it's not
That's
stable,
right.
right?
So when you
Okay.
eat a lot of carbohydrates, you're going to use what the cells need because you've been active in some way. Remember, the food is fuel for the
Yes.
cells,
Yes. Yes.
right? And carbohydrates are one form of fuel. So when you take in a lot of carbs, you're going to build that up. Your body's going to use what it needs, and then it's going to store the rest of it, and it's going to store it in one of three places. You get a little bit in the liver, a little bit in the muscle tissue, but then the rest of it's going to turn to fat. It
Yeah.
doesn't sit around waiting for us to need it later.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
drops. So when it drops, when it gets stored into fat, it drops down. And then we have that hypoglycemic type
Yeah.
symptoms that can really throw us off. And then
And
all of
that we can
that,
regulate with, what we eat at the same time and stuff like that.
yeah, it can definitely making sure. I always like to do it from work on that from both ends. I like to look at how many carbohydrates we're taking in. There's nothing wrong with carbohydrates. Let me be
Yeah.
really clear about that. But they are fuel. So if we don't have much exercise, we don't need as much of it, you see.
Right. Right.
So if we
I know,
can
but
lower,
metabolism also slows down as we age, I think, as
it
well, right?
can if
Yeah.
we're not exercising regularly.
Okay.
Yeah. So definitely we want to lower the carbohydrates, but we want to up the exercise, you see. That
Right.
way we can use up more of the carbohydrates and bring in a little bit less. And that tends to level things off for folks. But then you can also do things like synchronize your eating, right? You can take in your vegetables first and then your proteins and then eat your carbohydrates.
So
And that
then that's what,
slows.
an hour later or what?
No, like if you can do it in
Oh, yeah.
consecutively, like so let's say you've got your salad, you've got your chicken, and then you've got a big thing of mashed potatoes, right? So you've got
Okay.
your vegetables, your protein, and your carbohydrates. If you can eat your salad first and then your
First.
protein and then come to your carbs, it slows down the uptake of the carbohydrates, which then
So many
keeps the blood
tips
sugar
you've
more
got.
balanced.
Okay, so let's see, because we've only got a few more minutes here,
Yes.
and I just wanted, so we've been very general, right? But if people listening here are a bit like, okay, I want to start tackling I don't know, digestion, people can come to you with specific, what they need, and you can go over what they need in particular.
Absolutely,
But
absolutely, for sure. Yeah. So, and that's what we do. We do an assessment of all of these in the beginning
right,
so that I can understand what's really going on. What are the true goals? That's actually where we start, is trying to understand the goals,
Yeah,
because not everybody wants the same thing. And I want
yeah,
what the client wants, right?
yeah.
And then we try to see where are they with these seven. And then we'll start to see what are some of the steps that we can take without overwhelming their already full schedule. That's super important.
Right. So, I mean, we can't have specific tips today, but maybe one of the tips, if I understand well what you're saying, is first of all, for all of us to examine those 7 areas of our own life, right?
Absolutely. That's the number one thing that you can do, is what's your relationship to these seven things, right? And I like that phrasing, relationship. What is your relationship? Because not everyone is comfortable with exercise. Not
Right.
everyone
Yeah.
really knows how to eat well, right? And so what are the things that, where are you with these? And what are the things that you do feel comfortable with? And then how do we just go in and solidify that? How do we just tighten it up, make sure we've got that tucked under our arm before we start to enter into new activities and new processes?
Perfect. Thank you so much for this, Cara Michelle. And I mean, I really love this because this really is empowering and we do deserve this. Years back, we're talking about 50 years ago, okay, people, 55, whatever, were a bit like, well, who cares? I'm going to enjoy, I'm going to eat all the fun stuff and forget about the good stuff. But that doesn't work nowadays. Our lives do go on a lot longer. People need us longer. Our parents need us longer. Our children need us longer. And what you said, it's all about happiness. It's all about how we feel about ourselves. I mean, for years I've been all about it. It's all about our mission. And lately, with age, I've come to actually not. We're here to feel happy, and happy people do good things for other people.
That's right.
And whatever that means to us, that is what it is about. And maybe what makes you happy is to have a huge burning mission. But for those of us who don't, that doesn't matter. We're here to lighten up our little environment, and we can only do that if we are feeling good. If we're feeling good in our head, in our stomach, we've slept properly. I mean, we all know that, but it's time to actually take action on it. That's why I love this series, Cara Michelle. So thank you very much. I
Thank
would
you.
recommend everybody to make sure they've written down those 7 foundations and to really ask yourself, if I have to rate, how good I'm doing in that area on 0 to 10, which ones should you start with? And then really look into how can you make this consistent? Because that is what I love about your episodes. It is about consistency. It's not about a quick fit. So you have to find the one which works for you, right?
That's right, absolutely. And if I could end with an invitation, Julie, twice a month I offer a roundtable discussion for women who are trying to figure out how to get that consistency into their
Okay.
self-care routines. And so strengthvitalitycom, that's the website. You can go to the events tab, and we'll put a link in the description here. But you can sign up for this roundtable. It's a small group of women, and that gives me the opportunity to really dig into each person's concern, and then we can figure out what do we need to put in place in order for them to feel their
I
best.
love that. Is this also online or only in person?
It is online. It is
Oh,
online. Yep.
perfect. Right. I will make sure that that link is in there. And it sounds like a very empowering group to have. And we are all individual beings, as you said. Right. Love you very much. Thank you for sharing all of these steps with us. We'll be back soon, right, with
That's
episode 3. So take this on, take action, and let's live our lives the best way we can so that we can be there for other people, whatever's happening in the world, with the climate, with politics, whatever. All the
that's right.
best to you all. Bye, Cara Michelle.
Take
Bye.
care.